Sometimes the normal flow of things will suddenly veer in a new and unexpected direction. 3 events from last week made me wonder how to make sense of such moments. A prominent Japanese mathematician died. A college buddy sent me a picture of myself from 53 years ago. And an acquaintance experienced an intense spiritual awakening, which may or may not have been influenced by recreational drug use. According to his obituary in the New York Times, mathematician Heisuke Hironaka figured out how to perform resolutions of singularities, turning something sharp into something smooth, which can then be tackled by the tools of calculus. Gentle viewer, do not be alarmed. There's no real math in this movie, just a hint of mathish flavoring. Here I'm drawing a smoothly changing curve. It changes direction, but in gentle, predictable ways. But all of a sudden we get this, an abrupt change of direction, aka a singularity. Dr. Hironaka said that without singularities, the world would be completely flat. If everything were smooth, then there would be no novels or movies. The world is interesting because of the singularities. Until Dr. Hironaka came along, mathematicians couldn't make sense of them. They were like mystical events. But Dr. Hironaka projected them into a new dimension, and what had seemed for so long to be irrational was suddenly rational. There's one very famous use of singularities in art: classical Greek sculpture. When you throw something, first your arm moves back until it's fully cocked. Then it changes direction 180 degrees as it moves forward, culminating in the release. And that instant of pause between the backward and forward motions is what the Greek sculptures depict. To the Greeks, this turning point, this singularity, was logic and truth and beauty wrapped into one perfect instant. After the first semester of my junior year at UNC, I had taken enough math classes to satisfy the requirements of it being my major. So from then on, I only took courses that appealed to my imagination. Perhaps the most fascinating was an introduction to existentialism. The book I am publicly reading from in a somewhat crazed manner is Soren Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling and the Sickness unto Death. Kierkegaard contrasts 2 stories about the morality of a father's decision to kill his child, both of which rely on a belief in divine will. The first story is from Greek mythology. When the wind gods refused to blow and the Greeks could not launch their 1,000 ships against Troy, they believed that a sacrifice had to be made. It was incumbent upon their leader, Agamemnon, to kill his own daughter. He didn't want to do it, but because it was willed by the whole nation, the killing of Iphigenia by her father was considered not only correct, but a highly moral act. In this story, the moral law was universally applied and derived from the collective will and wisdom of the people. The philosopher Immanuel Kant would call this the categorical imperative. so act as to will thy law universal. Kind of a no man is an island morality. Story number 2 is from the Bible. Abraham believes that God has instructed him to sacrifice his son Isaac. If Abraham had consulted his people, they would have said, "Do not do this thing. Thou shalt not murder." But because Abraham believes God is telling him to do it, the common morality of his people no longer pertains. His act would be a singularity, an exception based on his individual and unique relationship with God. This essentially says that in a moral sense, each man is an island. Kierkegaard's break with Kant is why he's considered the father of existentialism. As a Christian in the 19th century, Kierkegaard insisted that each individual must cut his own separate deal with God. This morphed into the 20th century existentialist thought of atheist Jean-Paul Sartre. Non-philosophers may ask, which came first, the chicken or the egg? But Sartre asked, which came first, essence or existence? Essence is meaning, and by answering that existence precedes essence, Sartre tells us that there is no pre-existing meaning in life, no God's plan, no Platonic forms out there. So each of us must grab our own meaning from an indifferent universe. This brings me to the last part of my meditation, the story of the intense spiritual awakening of my acquaintance. Under the influence of heavy cannabis use, the person fell and hit their head, and then had an experience akin to that of Saul on the road to Damascus, knocked off his horse by the blinding light of divine revelation. What are we to make of this? Immanuel Kant's rationalism would suggest that this so-called spiritual awakening was induced by drug use and head trauma. It may have felt real, but in fact, it was more like a dream. But Søren Kierkegaard would insist otherwise, that God works in mysterious ways and can and does bring about turning points in the lives of selected individuals. My acquaintance insists that their drug use and fall were merely coincidental with their transcendent experience. Kierkegaard calls upon us to take a leap of faith. When a graph suddenly stops and then starts in a new place, this is another kind of singularity, the mathematical illustration of a leap of faith. So how can we ever know what is true? Well, Dr. Hironaka showed us that even great mysteries can eventually be cracked by the power of the human mind. But maybe some mysteries can only be solved if we're willing to take a leap of faith. But even if truth exists, is it ultimately persuasive? Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio said, "We are not thinking machines that feel. We are feeling machines that think." And Paul Simon saying, "Still, a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest." Here are the endings to those two stories that Kierkegaard wrote about in Fear and Trembling. Though the Greeks were generally on board with Agamemnon killing his daughter, the girl's mother was not. She waited patiently till her husband's triumphant return from the Trojan War and promptly murdered him. As for poor Isaac, who was about to have his throat sliced open by his father, just in the nick of time, God sent an angel to stop it. He was just testing Abraham's loyalty. No harm, no foul. When this photo was taken, I was showing initial symptoms of mental illness. I had come to fear that sinister strangers had come up with a machine that could steal my abilities. Less than a year later, I experienced a psychotic break with both auditory and visual hallucinations. I remember my suffering with fear and trembling. A life with no singularities may be flat, but life with too many singularities is unbearable. I would much rather be dead than ever return to that state of mind. 17th century philosopher Blaise Pascal's famous wager posits that believing in God makes sense. If he's not real, you're not going to lose much by believing in him. But if he is real, the consequences are too great to ignore. I would extend this wager to a belief in scientific medicine, which has evidence that marijuana can induce a schizophrenic state in someone with pre-existing psychological issues. If my acquaintance has ever exhibited such vulnerability, I beg them to stop their drug use. Does God exist? And by what name shall we seek God? Allah, Jesus, Mahadevi. Can mathematics unravel the singular mysteries of the universe? And how should we comport ourselves in this chaotic and corrupted world? One thing for certain is we humans want to know. And whether or not we ever will, our hopeful hearts proclaim, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know, even as also I am known.